Hi, and welcome to today's episode of Women's Health Unwrapped. Now, today we're unwrapping a conversation that goes beyond personal health and into the places we spend a huge portion of our lives, our workplaces. The average person spends almost 2/3 of their life at work. That's a huge amount of time where either health is supported or challenged. Now, with 13 million plus women in the UK currently perimenopausal or menopausal, and about 10 million of those in work, it is absolutely critical that we consider the role of the workplace in supporting menopause and women's health. Yet, for many women, menopause symptoms become a barrier to thriving at work. Symptoms affect confidence, self esteem, self worth, self belief, contribution value, and in turn, this all can affect career progression and performance. It even leads to women stepping away from roles that they love. 1 in 4 women consider leaving their jobs due to menopause related symptoms. And in the UK, it's cited that over 1 million women in recent years have already left the workplace due to menopause symptoms. Now, workplaces are finally waking up to menopause, but there's still a gap between policy and meaningful action. So today, in this episode, I'm joined by Tracy Lowe Sheppard, Head of People Development at Swim England. And Tracy recently contributed to my menopause white paper, where I dive into the real impact of menopause on women's careers, which I'll share a little bit more about at the end of the episode. And Tracy is here to help see what organisations and women, because this is a dual combined effort and responsibility, what you can do beyond just raising awareness, how to create real action that creates better workplaces for everyone. So let's get started. Welcome to the podcast, Tracy. It's lovely to have you here.
It's lovely to be here virtually meeting you. So Teams and all that kind of stuff. Virtual has become the new norm, which is good.
It has, yeah. And it's been a great way for us to connect and chat about all things menopause and find out so much of the great stuff and commitment that you've got at Swim England around menopause and women's health. But just before we dive into all of that, which I know is going to be a really great conversation, I'd love to know from you, what would you say is your most impactful healthy habit that really supports your well-being right now?
I think it's a very busy life, and we think back to COVID. COVID was 5 years ago, and that's really hard to kind of think because people are still referring back to when we were in COVID. And so for me, I think I've actually made a very good choice to say, actually, I need to pause for a bit. 2025 needs to be a bit more about me, taking time out, enjoying my weekends. The last couple of years, we've been on this treadmill since COVID to keep going, just keep going, just keep going. We've got through it, especially in HR, because of all the work we did around furlough and supporting businesses. I didn't get furloughed. I don't know many people in HR that got furloughed. So we didn't have that break. So actually, there was a very conscious moment at Christmas where I said, you know what? I need to concentrate on what I want as well as what the organisation wants from me. So I am definitely making that choice this year to get the balance better aligned for a little bit of me and my career as well as my personal life, and also give back to the company. Whereas I think in previous years it's been swayed and I've been constantly working for the company and forgetting that I've got a career, I've got a life. So I've kind of fell through the last couple of years. So yeah, definitely a conscious decision to go, it's me time.
That's great awareness to have, and a really powerful reflection as well. And you're right. I've seen quite a bit, because obviously we're at the start of
Mm.
2025, calling out that anniversary of 5 years since COVID. And it does seem like it was, less than five
Yeah.
years ago. And I think many people reflected on how they were living during the pandemic
Mm.
and lockdown, whether you were furloughed or working as normal, and we just, many of us thought, oh, let's change things, let's do things differently, because we could feel the value of having more space in whatever,
Mm.
way that looked for you.
Yeah.
But now at least 2 normal years post-COVID, many people have fallen back into the normal way of life and the
Yeah.
busyness of life that we vowed not to go back
Yeah.
to. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's great you're calling that out and saying, actually, I think it's time to bring some pause and space for me so that I can be the best version of myself in and out of work.
Yeah, definitely. And I think
Mm-hmm.
I was in a supermarket the other day, and the whole COVID, be kind, give space, say thank you. And I've noticed definitely over the past year or so, it's disappeared. People have stopped being kind and stopped being nice. And I was in the supermarket, and somebody came with a small shopping bag, and I had the weekly shop. And I just, do you want to go in front of me? And she looked shocked and was like, oh, thank you so much, thank you. And I'm like, that's not a lot. I can do that. And then the person behind me, I heard do something similar. I was like, well, all you have to do is, it only takes one person to start a change. And
Mm.
then and it's the same in organizations. You only need someone to start that change, and then suddenly somebody else is doing a change, and somebody else is doing it, and suddenly we've all changed. So I think it's definitely a moment where we all need to take that time and say, we need to make the change. But there's a famous quote, and it is, be the change you want to see. And I think it is Gandhi who said that. So it's very much, if you think there needs to be a change, make the change, others will follow.
Yeah, that's so powerful and links us very nicely to what you do in your role and the conversation we're going to have about menopause and women's health, and why, as a HR leader, you feel that it is so vital for workplaces to commit to supporting menopause and bringing it into the workplace and normalizing it. So just to
Yeah.
get started, I'd love for you to do a bit of an intro into your role at Swim England
Hmm.
and how you got started with caring so much about menopause to do what we'll go on to chat about.
Yeah, so I started at Swim England in June last year. So I've not been here a year yet, which is madness because it feels like I've been here years. And when I joined, menopause was definitely on the agenda. We've got a new CEO started in February last year, and it was one of the areas that we were looking at for wellbeing, putting wellbeing back, a part of our new values procedures. So when I joined, the people director at the time said, menopause is there. I've kind of got somebody involved, but could you take it forward? And, for me, menopause was just something that happened. It was, I remember my mum mentioning it, and I thought, well, I'm getting to that age now. What is it? Because I haven't got my parents around anymore. So I did a little bit of Googling, and there is a lot of information, but there is a lot of misinformation out there, and you can wrap yourself up in knots on this thing. All the things you should and shouldn't take, all the supplements you could or couldn't have, and HRT, you have to have it. So I had an initial chat with the lady that we got in to look after the menopause program. So we sourced an external expert. She's great. Her name's Lucy Heaton, and we had an initial chat, and she just opened my eyes to, actually, this is normal, and it's a taboo subject people don't talk about. So why don't we normalize it? Why don't we start talking about it? And then we spoke about, the plan was to have awareness raising in all areas of the business, from managers and SLT right down to employees. And that was the kind of crux of it, is we just need to make people aware, because you don't talk about it. And for those people, for myself, who haven't got parents, or even if you've got an older parent, they don't talk about it because you
Mm.
didn't in those days. So who do you go to ask for help? Well, you need to start the groups and gatherings of people talking about it in the workplace and normalizing that kind of language, so that you go, I felt like that as well. Oh right, I need to get help because that's happened to me. And then suddenly, that it is that little step snowball effect, that then suddenly everybody's going, you know what, yeah, I'm absolutely fine with talking about it because it's absolutely normal, and I'm a woman and I'm going through it, and everybody else is at the same time. So yeah, it began as that project, and then over the course of the autumn, leading into Menopause Awareness Month and Menopause Awareness Day in October, we did we did 5 awareness raising days. We found signposting to help and support, and we started to make the little changes to the organisation that will help women in so much bigger ways. So yeah, it was that snowball of having that conversation and the moment in my brain when I went, I feel that, I get that. Oh, that's menopause. That's what it is. And it's understanding that and then going, and these are the things I need to do. Oh, that will make it better. Good. But it's a journey. It's not a race. We're all on the same path, but we're going at different paces, and it affects different people in different ways. And it was right. The myths are starting to be pulled apart. I get this now. This is great.
And it is such a big topic, isn't it? And I
Mm,
think that's one of the challenges that we have, not just in the workplace, but generally for women, is that there is just so much involved in menopause, what it means, what it changes in you. And of course, there's the immediate symptoms that you can experience and the short term impact of those. But then there's also a much longer term potential impact for many women because of the changes, whether that's in your physical health, mental, emotional health, and all of those areas of health impact how you perform at work and can
yeah.
massively impact your career, can't they? So you talked about bringing awareness in. Like, how has that been received by the team? And I know one of your approaches to this is that it's for everybody. This
Mm.
isn't only for the women. But yeah, just to set it up, you have how many employees? Is it
So
250?
yeah, we've got 250
Yeah.
permanent, yeah.
Hmm.
But then we also have coaches and we have volunteers and we have regional teams. So Swim England is quite a complex organisation because it's not just employees. So
Hmm.
we do an awful lot on Teams. So the best thing that we could do was start webinars. And I think it's that starting the conversation. But what we did to ensure that everybody felt comfortable was we anonymized you joining. So you could join, but it was anonymous. So you could listen in. You didn't have to be on camera. You didn't have to put your real name in. It's very much a case of, we want to make it as easily accessible to everybody that wants to join. So we opened it up and we sent out the all the information. We do use Reward Gateway. We have a platform called Dive In Deals. So we made sure that there was a tile on there with all the links to the meetings, etc. So you couldn't not know where to go. And we put posters up and things like that. So that was the first thing, is to say, we're doing something. We're doing something really positive. And I did get asked, I did go to a legal seminar way back in September and said we were doing all this work. And I remember a question by somebody saying, well, that's great because, you've identified that you've got a lot of women in your population. We're men orientated. We've got lots of men. We haven't got that many women. So it wouldn't be okay for us. I sort of said, well, why do your men in your organization not have wives and sisters and mothers and aunties, etc.? So I remember a light bulb moment for my husband. Because again, he's older. He's in the construction trade. He'd heard of menopause, but it was the thing that happens to women. But he's a very big fan of Carol Vorderman and Davina McCall, who I spoke very openly about their menopause struggles. And he used to watch their videos on Instagram. And I remember him turning to me one day and going, you know what, you women really go through it. I didn't know. And that's the crux of it, is men don't know. They don't, and what you don't know, you don't understand. So I said to this lady, I said, but if you do awareness raising and you encourage your men to take part, and you can do the other flip side, what men go through as part of their aging process, it's Men's Health Awareness Month is November, women's is October, so you can do women and then you can do men. If we get to the point where equality in how we treat each other, men to women, etc., is understood, and it's that educational piece of what we go through and why we are the way that we are. Why do we suddenly have hot flushes? Why do we feel anxious? Why do we lose our self-confidence? Why do we question everything? Because the list of symptoms is huge, but also unique to every single person. And that's the thing, is every single person going through this will have a unique journey and a unique experience. If you can raise awareness of that, they won't think they're going mad. They won't start to stress that it's some other illness. What is going on with me? They won't lose their confidence because they go, oh, I know what this is. I know what's coming. And their partners and their husbands, even their brothers, etc., can go, you know what? Do you need to just sit down for a moment? I'll go make you a cup of tea because I can see you're not feeling great, and I know why. But we won't embarrass each other. We'll just go, just have a seat 5 minutes. And it's happened to me. I've got home. I'm like, oh my God, I'm blooming hot in here. And my other half will go, I'll go get your drink, shall I? And it's like, oh, thank you. And that's all you need to do. That awareness raising, educational piece to make people know this is not some weirdness happening to you. This is part and parcel of you being a woman, getting to a certain age, having done your childbearing years, you're moving into the next phase. And what does that mean? So, I didn't realize that menopause is just one day. It's like, oh, I thought it was the phase. No, it's perimenopause was the lead up to it. Your menopause is one day when you stop having periods, and then you go into postmenopause. So Lucy explained it in the fact that, through your teenage years, your hormones are going up and up and up and up. You have kids, and then you hit perimenopause and they start to decline, and you're on this declining scale now to go into your postmenopause. And I was like, that's a really good of explaining it. I've been on this up to have kids, and I've had kids, and I'm going through the latter half. My hormones are not needed anymore. My body's going, well, reject that. We don't need that. We're just going to the next phase. So it was a real educational piece for me as well to understand all of that.
Because we aren't taught this as women. One of the stats that I included in the white paper was that 90% of women aren't taught about this at school. And I know you've got a daughter similar to the age of my daughter, who's 17. And when she had her sex education lesson at school, it was so basic, even on the puberty side, and certainly around menstruation. It's very high level, and that's it definitely links to this topic, a different conversation, but we aren't taught as women what's normal and not normal around our monthly cycle and the bleeding and so on. And likewise, we aren't taught about menopause. I'm sure in my lesson 40 years ago, it wasn't even mentioned, whereas for my daughter it was like, and then you're going to go through something called menopause, which will be even worse than puberty in 40 years time. And that's it. That's the extent. And it's already, sow the seed of it is going to be horrible. Puberty's difficult enough, it's going to be worse. And so, we aren't taught that. And as you touched on, many women start to have those shifts and think they're going crazy. And we've got lots of stats out there as well about mental health in women. Sadly, the suicide rates are the highest in women between the ages of 45 and 55. We see all of these different indicators of how women in that midlife age range are struggling. And again, through the research I did for the white paper and the independent women I spoke to who contributed, every single one of those did not know that what was starting to shift and making them feel less confident, more anxious, tired, exhausted, overwhelmed, stressed, all of those different things that can arise. They didn't put a label on it relating it to menopause because they didn't know that. They didn't have that information. And as you shared as well, our hormonal cycles as women, we have these monthly cycles versus men who have a 24-hour cycle, and their 24-hour cycle is very simple, should we say, in comparison to what we have over that typical 28-30 day period. And I include that as well when I give my talks and sessions to teams, and that's always the big light bulb. And I think for men, they need that because, again, a lot of men are, should we say, skeptical or not so sympathetic as you've explained, and shared with your husband, because they're like, oh God, really? Is this another woman's thing? And there is that attitude that we're trying to dispel, isn't there? And so when you say, this is why women can have all of these symptoms, from the rage to the insomnia, to the hot flushes, to the weight gain, to the low libido, to the joint pain, whatever it might be, like, this is why, versus this is why you don't experience those things. That's just something so simple that I think we need to embed in the education very young and normalise. And as you said, normalising it in the workplace is great for everyone. And do you feel as though you've had like interest and uptake from those that are younger in your team?
Yeah, to be fair, when we did the webinars, I was surprised at the age range that logged on, because there were people there that were in their 20s and 30s, as well as those late 50s and 60s. And when you think about it, so, if you go to work at the age of 18 and retirement age is now 68, Your menopause can kick in any time from 40, and it can be earlier, it can be slightly later, but from 40 onwards, you're hitting this period. So for 28 years in the workplace, you're going to go through this, and that's not to count the previous years where you might be having children and you've got all those hormones kicking around. So the fact is 56% of your working life will be during phases of the menopause, whatever phase that is, peri, post, etc. So you do get people logging into, well, what's happening for me next? I've had my kids, I'm in my 30s. What is coming up the hill? And what am I going to have? And do I need to keep my eye out for it? Because, when we think about the world of work, the world has changed an awful lot. And I remember as a child, this will show my age, watching the Golden Girls as a kid. And when you think about the characters in the Golden Girls were early to late 50s. Well, they had grey hair, they had curly grey hair, and they all lived together and they didn't work. And you think, that's not a 50-year-old that I know these days. I mean, I am on the countdown. I'm doing the 50 things before 50 kind of in any minute now. I'm not grey-haired, curly, giving up, going and retiring and living with my girlfriends. I'm still wanting to go and party. So the world has changed. People have changed. Women have changed. Our expectations have changed. And we're expected now to work longer, but also juggle multiple things. And then you throw in menopause on top of that. So it's a lot to handle. So like I say, it affects everyone differently. When you think about the things that can happen to you. So if you think of the impact, there are psychological symptoms, and then there are physical symptoms. And our physical symptoms are almost easier to cope with because, and everyone talks about getting hot flushes. You kick the duvet off, you put your foot out, and etc. Because at night your temperature's flipping, and you might suffer from insomnia. And things like difficulty sleeping, and you're going to get the heavier and the light periods and stuff. They're physical. I can deal with that. That's something I can actually pick up and deal with. But the psychological side of it, you sometimes wouldn't hint that is menopausal stuff. So feeling unhappy or depressed. And I say one of the biggest things for me, and it's a mental thing, and it happens when you have any kind of sort of illness, is accepting it. So I've had to get my head around the fact, you always like to think I'm young, I'm still vibrant young person. So when you hit menopause, when you're going through perimenopause, and it's like almost the end is nigh, I've got to accept mentally I'm knocking on a bit, and I don't want to, and I don't want to feel that I'm getting old, because nobody wants to get that bit. So there's me with my 18-year-old. She's putting all the latest tunes on, and I'm thinking, I literally could go out now and have a really good time clubbing and everything as if I'm blooming 20 again. My body might not like it, but I could. But mentally, I've got to accept the fact that I'm heading up the other side now. I've flipped over, and I'm going, and God, that means I'm getting old, and I've got to mentally accept that, and the acceptance that my childbearing years are over. And you start to say, am I still attractive to my husband? Am I putting weight on? And what I'm getting grey hair. And men don't tend to get that. Men tend to think that they don't have this change, this flip moment, as much as women. So there's that acceptance bit. Everyone jokes about brain fog. I have sat in meetings with senior leaders before where I've had a moment where I've forgotten something, and rapidly going, the more you panic, the worse your memory gets, trying to remember something, and had a flippant comment about, oh my gosh, you're having a menopausal moment. And straight away I was like, no, actually. And I was able to come back and, no, why are you? But it knocked me. I came off that call going, oh my God, I looked an absolute idiot. I'm a senior leader in the organisation, and I've been made to look like an imbecile. I've got to go and talk to those people now who in the back of their heads will go, oh, here we go, hormonal blooming woman. It knocks you down, feeling anxious, feeling tense, feeling nervous in meetings, etc. Yeah, we might feel those anyway, but part of that is the menopause. You start to lose your confidence, you start to get anxious, you start to question everything. Your brain is trying to cope with hormones leaving it, and therefore it's clinging on to little bits and pieces, and it's having brain fog at moments. And brain fog can be the daftest thing in the world. So, actors that in films, and you're going, what film have they been in? I know this. I know, we watched it last week. What is my memory doing? And then you get, oh, you've forgot something. I've gone shopping and I forgot something, or I've forgot it's our anniversary next week. I don't mean to do this on purpose. My brain's letting me down. My body is failing me. Oh my God, I'm at that age. So it's all of those things. And top that with the fact that at the point where you enter menopause at 40, 50, you've probably worked your career to be in a leadership role. You're expected to handle all of this and juggle it multiple things and be able to make decisions in meetings and contribute to the wider organization. And yet at that point, your body's failing you and your brain's going to mush and you're feeling nervous and stressed and your confidence is gone. So it's those kind of things that organizations need to understand, normalize. You're okay. You're not going mad. We will support you. We're there for you. We understand our women are really important to us, and you've got so much experience. When you think about nearly 8 out of 10 menopausal women are in the workplace, but an awful lot of them have considered leaving it because they can't, or stepping back and, losing that career because they're thinking, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I've lost my confidence. I don't know my career, what I'm saying in meetings. I need to take a step back. I need a career break. I need to go part-time because I cannot cope. All that experience, all that, wealth of knowledge you could lose out of your organization by not making some really simple, thoughtful changes, because your people are your workforce. It includes women, and it includes women of a certain age. So if I think one of the organisations I worked with said, we bring our whole self to work. Well, that means warts and all. So
Yeah.
everything that comes into work, and you just have to learn to support people through all those challenges and those marriage, divorce, children, all the menopause stuff, all the health stuff that we support. We bring our whole selves to work, so you need to support our whole selves.
Yeah. And you have kind of built this picture there, which is fantastic, around all of those different symptoms and how some of those can play out and impact you in the workplace. And I have something I call the psychological loop that I use when I'm running workshops specifically on the psychological symptoms of menopause, and show how everything is linked, and it kind of moves in rotation on this model. Because as you said, you have the physical symptoms, you have some of those cognitive type of symptoms like the brain fog, the memory retention problems, the worry, the stress, the self-doubt. And our brain is actually changing because of the shifting hormones. And we do have some real psychological things that are going on in different parts of our brain that mean we do catastrophize more, we do feel the fear more. Those are real changes that are happening, but they're also combined with, as you said, this realization that you're at this point in your life, which, because of what we were taught by our female role models in our lives, was a horrible thing. That meant you were actually old. And I love
You're
the
past
Golden
it.
Girls. Yeah. It's funny, when we're recording this, I've literally just put out a clip from this week's podcast episode with a guest, and she references this as well with the Golden Girls, how, the perception was, well, that's what happens when you're in your 50s.
Yeah.
You have grey, short, curly hair, you live as a group of women, or you at least, are in that kind of community, and that's the way life is, and you're constantly talking about, how you look and how you feel and the challenges of all of that. So, self-acceptance is a huge part of it. It's not throwing the towel in at all. I think maybe it used to be that way, certainly as I look upon like my mum's generation, how it was. But we're in this generation now, as you said, where 50 is very different. We have a lot of working life ahead of us. Many of us in this kind of generation probably didn't have mothers in a career or
No.
even working full time, and so when they were navigating menopause, they weren't juggling what they were juggling with the home, family responsibility, and their career, as you are in a senior leadership role or running your own business like I am. All of those responsibilities that come along with wanting to be the best version of you, to live that full, happy, vibrant life you want for yourself. And so there's so much mixed into this psychological loop that can mean for many women it just becomes this whole haze of uncertainty and almost like real kind of trauma, because it's like, well, I feel really rubbish, but also what I'm thinking is just not, it's not me anymore. I don't know
Yeah.
what to.
You do lose yourself,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you know I think about, I mean, and like you say, you've got a child similar age to mine, but my son left home last year for the first time ever because he didn't go to well, he stayed at home for university. He moved out. That's
Mm-hmm.
one child gone. My daughter at 18 is going to go to university. So you do have this, I've got to package that away, and that part of my life is now done. And with you
Yeah.
living longer, it's about accepting the fact that I'm not done, I'm not out, don't count me out. I'm actually just moving into the next phase, which
Mm-hmm.
actually you have to kind of do a self kick yourself up the bum moment of go, well, what do I want now? I've changed. I'm going through menopause, whoop de doo. But what do I want? Right, I'm going to go. I'm going to go to the gym more. I'm going to go and get a hobby. I'm going to go out more. I am going to have my weekends back. I'm not doing the school runs or the club runs and everything. And you do have to kind of, again, it is that acceptance of I'm in a new phase. So you've gone from your 20s, you become, and you do it naturally in 20 and 30s. You kind of, you find somebody, I'm really generalizing, but you find somebody, you settle down, you have kids. That's the pathway. What is not spoken about so much is, and then your kids leave home, you have empty nest syndrome, you get menopause. What do you do then? What do women do? And like I said, because we're living longer now, it's about us carving the path and going, well, actually, women of 50 do this, and women of 60 do this. And we can go and get our lives back, and we can go on a holiday, and we can do what the heck we like. But there is this stigma attached to, women who do that. I mean, you think of Sex in the City, Samantha. My daughter's introduced me to Sex in the City. Samantha, most men view her as, oh my God, she's predatorial. She at that age. Why shouldn't she be? She looks, I wish I looked like that at that age. Why shouldn't she go and do what she wants, be who she likes, and dress how she wants? But it's that stigma attached to, if you do that, people look at you and go, state of her. And it's got to change. And that's where the normalizing this, we're just changing through the phases of life. We're moving into that new phase now. And the phase, like I said right at the beginning, my phase this year, my daughter's going to go to university, my son's moved out. What about me? I've done my bit. I
Yeah.
now need to do something for me. So accepting where I am physically, mentally, career wise, and actually go, what do I want now? What does Tracy want? But most women feel guilty because you spent your lives doing stuff for other people, even if it's in your organization. You're serving your organization, you're serving your kids, you're serving your husband, etc. You feel a bit selfish about going, actually no, I'm important, I need to have my life. So it is getting your brain switched in that different way. And the more we talk about it, the more women actively promote going into that phase, the better it'll be for all women, because you get people go, I never thought of it like that. That's a good point. Yeah, what about me? I'm not being selfish. I have a right. I've got a life. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's a flip we really do need to make. And I talk a lot about how midlife is this crossroads point that can open up a whole better
Mm,
second half of your life. That's certainly my story. You're embracing that. A lot of the women I speak to on my podcast have had a similar experience, because I think those changes we're talking about, along with those expectations we've had put onto us of how we should be as women, you've just touched on some of that. We should be taking care of the kids, we should be performing at work, and so on. And then when that's disrupted because of the shifts in our hormones, we can go to the negative and fall
yeah,
into that
you get knocked
downward spiral
back.
of
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm struggling, I'm no longer good, I'm not going to add value. And I know lots of women who felt like that.
Yeah.
I'm no longer of value to the company, I can't think as fast, I'm forgetting things, I'm not able to make decisions, I'm not contributing in meetings because I'm so nervous that I'm going to say something and I've missed the point because I've forgotten what was just said, and so on. Whereas if we flip and go, actually, take those feelings of uncertainty and self-doubt and worry, and say, well, okay, what does this mean? Like, what comes next for me? How can I move forward and still feel valuable, because
Yeah.
I've got that core inner worth? And how can I be supported by those around me at home and in the workplace? And so, as you rightly said, when we are bringing this awareness and support into the workplace for everyone can take that outside of the workplace as well. And it's that ripple
Mm,
effect of the husband understanding, the partner, the son, the work colleague. That's an
Well,
important part. As we said, of how much you're at
yeah.
work. Who are those people you spend the
You're
most
at
time
work
with?
a
It's
lot
actually
of
not your
time,
family,
yeah.
it's your
Yeah,
work
exactly.
colleagues. Yeah.
You're at work a long time. And I mean, I wish that my mum was still around, because what I would first thing I would do is go, I'm really sorry if I was a tetchy teenager and you were going through all of this. I'm sorry. So, use it to repair the relationship you might have damaged, because you're now aware you can go and have that relationship back, or go, understanding more. You open up that conversation to a whole world of people that actually you might not have been able to talk to before, because you can go, I know what you're going through now. I get it. I was at a really good event just last night, actually, in London, with great networker called Georgina Kelly, and the panel, four really great speakers on the panel, were speaking about women empowering themselves and having the confidence to go and negotiate salaries and paychecks. And you do take this dint, your confidence hits the bottom, and you start to go, maybe I've hit my peak, maybe this is it, maybe this is all I can do, maybe. And you start to question, maybe I'm not good enough anymore, maybe I've done my piece, and you see, really, I mean, I think back to my mom. She was really intelligent, but she was a medical secretary, but that's all she ever got to be, because that was all that was expected of her. And I have to say, I think part and parcel of it was that's all she thought she could do. Whereas actually what we need to be doing, and this is where the younger generation is highlighting that, no, women are blooming good. We are a valuable part of the workforce. We are sought after. We are experts in fields. We need to push that agenda forward and actually go, no, we are worth it. We are worth investing time in. We are worth investing all that energy in, because we contribute an awful lot, and we have got brains and we can use them, and we're blooming good. And I think when you think back to 100 years ago, women didn't work. Pre-war, we're talking 1925. Women didn't go out to work. So actually, we've moved. The world of work has shifted. The attitudes of work have not necessarily kept pace, and that's where women need to start pushing now, and demanding and saying, you know what, I'm good. I am really good. You need me. I can do this. But what menopause does is dint that, and you need that family of women around you talking about, actually, we know what we're going through, we're dealing with it, we're all on the same page, right? As a group, we're more powerful, we can move this forward. So that's where, get your community, get your network, your colleagues around you, your family around you, to give you that boost, that confidence when you're feeling low, to be able to talk and go, I'm having a really bad day today, my confidence has hit the floor, or I'm having brain fog, or I don't know what the heck, my brain's, I've said before, my head's a shed. And people are going, yeah, I feel that, and talking it through with somebody, I'm not going mad, I'm all right, and tomorrow will be better. So that's where normalizing that language really will help everybody. And like I say, companies can't afford to dismiss this, because you need, let's say they need us. They need us women. We do a very good job of what we do.
Absolutely. And when you think about gender equality and equity, and all of those very crucial and important things that we're trying to change globally to bring more diversity and inclusion and equality, women are such a huge part of that. And I always talk about how I believe women have the power to change that. I do think when you look at the great big historical shifts and moments that we've had through history, like, women are always at the forefront of that. And, we are 51% of the population. We do matter. We matter very much in the workplace. We still don't have equality when it comes to women in leadership roles and on, the table of boardrooms and so on. So we need to be stepping up. And as you were speaking, I was kind of seeing this and putting my hands together for those listening, like this blending. It's a two-way process, in that the workplace has a responsibility, but we as individual women have a responsibility. And so the first thing is that awareness and understanding of what menopause means, what it can shift, how you can feel, so that you can catch it when it's happening, and be compassionate and bring that self-awareness, whatever that takes. You made a great point of being part of groups and communities, safe places, supportive places, women who are like you, and that's what I try to bring through what I do in this podcast, to help you know that you aren't alone and that what you're experiencing is normal and can be improved upon as well by taking control of your health, so that you can navigate it, because for some women it is very difficult. Those symptoms are really impactful in many different ways. So, navigating through that with the support that you need to then, be that empowered woman who knows she is of value, that she has a whole second half of life ahead of her. And actually, for many women, that second half can be one that you are in control of. I think for many of us, again, you touched on this, we fall onto a path by default of, university or further education of some kind, starting a career. And certainly for me, my career just kind of happened, and then I was in it. So I had to keep going because I was earning the money, and, and it was like, well, what's next? How can I stay motivated and doing something that I enjoy, and so on, and then your relationship, and then a child, and so on. And that again, I think, is when you get to midlife and your world is rocked through the hormonal shifts and those changes going on in your brain that make you go, where am I and why am I here? And this is not what I want. And actually embracing that to go, okay, now I get to design the rest of my life, not live it by default, which I think was certainly my story. So I think it's such an empowering take. And you as an individual coming at it with what your organization can bring as well, so that together you can connect, collaborate, and really support. I think that's the key, isn't it?
Yeah, because I'm about to embark on a course of executive coaching, which I'd never considered before. I just, like you say, I fell through my career. People go, well, how did you get to where you are? I actually don't know. I just kind of kept going. It is pun central here because I work at Swim England, but I just kept swimming because that was the expectation. You have kids, keep going. You lose your parent, keep going. You've got to keep going. I've got a mortgage to pay. Just keep swimming, just keep going. And you fall through your career. And actually, like I say, 2025, I've kind of gone, I've achieved a lot. I've done loads, and I've had a kids and family, and I've done all of that. Gosh, that I actually am. I'm good. I'm powerful as a woman. I know what I'm talking about. And to have that moment to go, what do I want? So I've engaged an executive coach, and I'm really looking forward to it, because my first initial chat to go, is this the right person for me, gave me such a boost to go, yeah, good point. I've got here through the power of me. Nobody's put me here. Nobody's actually given me that golden ticket and just gone, here, have a career, have this job. I've had to work hard to get here, and I've had some knockbacks over the years, and I've got back up and I've kept going. So actually, L'Oreal, I'm worth it. I've got this. So and when you talk about having your community around you, even the point of an educational piece side, we have one of the things we've introduced at Swim England is toiletries. Most organisations do have female toiletries in the toilets, and our toilets are multi-use, so they're male and female, etc. But we have got a basket and we have got toiletries. And I actually approached the lady that does all the ordering and said, could you order some different products for the boxes? And she was like, what? I went, well, you've got normal, everything, average, pads and all that. Can you order some heavy and some really heavy and some night ones? She said, why? I was like, right, bit of education. When you're going through menopause, you can experience things like flooding, and it's not pleasant, and it's a shock, and you need that. I said, oh God, I didn't know. I was like, no, so I'm educating you now. So, we little changes, little tweaks. So we've got toiletries. Well done. That's brilliant. Why don't we add some toiletries in there that somebody going through menopause will need? So that will help, because then the employee who has to then use that will go, oh, thank God, my workplace is amazing. Look at what they did for me. And all I need to make my day better, instead of that awful moment when you'd have to go to your manager and go, can I go home? Especially if it's a male manager, I need to go home and change because I've had an accident. And oh my God, I've got to admit this. You won't have that now, because we provide the toiletries that means that you can get that. Other things that we've introduced is we're getting a wardrobe locker type thing, where you can bring your own change of clothing. So again, you don't have to go home. It's a safety net. I've not got to bring it all in a bag and everyone's going, oh, you're going to the gym. no, I'm having a bad day and I might need that. No, it's in a cupboard. um, Having dark cardigans in the toilets. So if it does happen, you can escape, get your stuff quite, quietly, and go and get changed without everybody seeing everything and having to be so embarrassed. The little change. I'm not talking about the big speeches. The awareness raising was a little thing. It was an hour. I think we did an hour every 3 weeks for 5 weeks. And the things that we did were, I have to say, it was a biology lesson and a half that I never got at school about what's happening. So it was menopause 101, what's happening to your body, what is changing, the reasons. So that whole, you've gone through your hormone peak and you're now coming down the other side, and the hormones that you're losing, etc. We went through exercise. I didn't know exercise changes. You have to exercise differently. I'm like, that would explain why, even though I'm going to the gym, I'm not losing an inch of blooming weight, because your body requires you through cortisol to do different exercise. So
Yeah.
30 quid, I purchased a weight vest for the office, so that if you want to go for a walk at lunch, take a weight vest, because that's a better way than going and running around the block when you're menopausal. And again, raising people's education on that. And it's, we've got it in the office, so you can either try before you buy or just borrow it when you want to go out for a walk at lunchtime, which is great.
Mm.
And then we did one on supplements. And you get all the advertising. I mean, God, if you ever click on anything on Instagram or Facebook, you get so much more advertising. So one pill solves everything. No, it doesn't.
Or 50
And
pills for
oh
like
God,
£500 a month will
yeah,
solve it. And
exactly.
women are so desperate. Yeah, they've fallen into
Yeah,
that
and
trap.
what the latest one is, all about collagen and what collagen supplements.
Mm.
Actually, Lucy took us through all the different types of supplements and what they're actually doing. But
Hmm.
then, the educational piece around, understand your body, understand what it's doing. If you're feeling tired, what supplement do you need to take to help that? If you're feeling lack of energy, what supplement do you need to take that? And things like, I never realized what zinc actually did. It was on a the table in chemistry. I didn't actually realize what it did. So you can now go in Holland and Barrett educated, not have to ask them, and they'll sell you what they want to sell you, and go and
Mm.
pick the pills that you actually need for the symptoms you've actually got, rather than I'll pick the one pill that might do something, potentially, hopefully, and it's like a placebo kind of effect. So that was really good. And then we went through the whole
Yeah.
HRT, because I thought, well, I need to go and get on HRT. You don't need to go on HRT. What is HRT? And the fact I didn't realize that there is different HRT. What you have to do is push your doctor to get you the right HRT, and go and try one.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, try another one. And don't be afraid to go in that doctor's office and go, I don't think that's working because it's not doing this for me. I need to try something different. Educating you to ask the right questions in that doctor's surgery to get the help that you need. The 5 sessions were really useful,
Mm.
really in depth, containing a lot of information. And because of the way that we've actually stored them on our platform now, you can go back and revisit them and screenshot them and download them, their slide decks, etc. And one of the ladies who attended came, she said, thank you very much, it was really educational. I wish my husband had been on the call. I was like, well, you've got the slide deck, why don't you just sit with him at night, or email them to him and go, just for your information, if you want to read more, here, have a look at this. Providing that information to them. And there's loads of web pages, but it's finding the really good ones. So again, we've signposted
Yeah.
to those that we've been recommended, where the facts are, not loads of information that you just go, I don't even get this, that's contradicting that. So the good websites, and chat rooms and Facebook feeds and things that you can go and get involved in that will help. So
Mm.
it is that journey that we're on. And we've not stopped. I mean, with January we did
Hmm.
our employee raising awareness sessions. We did a manager session, because that will help grievances. Don't say, I think you're having a menopausal moment, or do you think you might be menopausal, in meetings and stuff, because no, that doesn't go down well. And I've had that from women as well as men. So that education piece for managers and SLT, but then the awareness raising for the employees. And now in January, we're now looking at, okay, how do we keep that momentum going? How do we keep pushing for that next thing? How do we, we're at the moment, it's cold, but we will go to summer, it will be warm. How do we, you have that moment where you're feeling hot and the person next to you is feeling cold. Well, that's because, I'll be honest, I feel a bit menopausal today. Do you mind if I open the window? And for that other person to go, absolutely fine, because I know why you're feeling hot, and I know what menopause does to you. And yeah, I'm okay with that. I'll just put my jacket on. That kind of
Yeah.
empathy within the workplace to go, you know what, it's fine. Don't worry about it. So it's all that whole package. It's not one thing. It's a multitude of. I
Mm.
mean, Tesco's coined the phrase, isn't it?
Mhm.
Every little helps, but every little piece of support helps your employees. It's the psychological contract you have with your workplace to go, if you do that for me, I will do more for you. I feel that you're helping me. I will help you. You know, I will not have the day off because I know that when I get that, I've got the support in place to help me be in work. So it's those changes that will help your employees be happier, healthier, and they will pay you back in dividends.
I love that. And it is about approaching it from, as you said, this 360-degree ongoing journey
Mm.
approach that is effective rather than ticking the box, which is a
Yeah.
challenge that I experience talking with many organisations, in that it's a one and done awareness session, which is great as a starting point. You know, we need, as we've talked about, women to be better educated themselves, but for everyone to understand this part of a female's life. But we do need it to go beyond that, to keep supporting the woman herself
Mm.
to make positive changes, to not be as negatively impacted by menopause as what many women are, but also to normalize it as a way of life in the workplace and out. So just kind of to bring us towards wrapping up, Tracy, I'd love to know, what do you think has been like the biggest positive impact from the work that you've done so far? And what do you see as being the biggest challenge in moving this forward?
I think the educational piece about what it is, you know, and normalizing that language to bring it into the workplace, to make it something that when you think about pre-COVID, nobody spoke about mental health, or if you did, it was a taboo subject. And COVID normalized it, that everybody went through this big change together, men and women, and we now have mental health first aiders. It is just a part and parcel of the workplace that we have people who need support mental health wise. So the same change needs to happen for menopause. And to be fair, any health condition needs to be normalized in the workplace and spoken about freely. Bring your whole self to work. That's the biggest change, is getting the language that you can say, wait a minute, I'm having a brain fog moment, give me a sec, and not go, I'm going to be targeted, I'm going to be I'll be pushed down, I'll be dismissed because I've lack of brain function. You know, that big change will make a huge difference for women to go, I can go into work today, I'm having a bit of a bad day, but if I say I'm having a bit of a bad day, I will be supported. I won't be marginalized. I won't be pushed to the side. I won't be taken the mick out of. That's the biggest change.
Mm.
The challenge is ongoing. It's keeping the momentum going. It's constantly looking for what else we can do. So, you know, we had the awareness raising sessions. We've sorted out the toiletries. We've got the plan to have the cupboard, but I need to get it in. It's not, you know, not being forgotten. Um, and then it's looking at awareness days in the year that you can link back, tentative links. So if you think about osteoporosis, there is osteoporosis awareness day. You suffer more at the point of menopause. So link it,
Yeah.
because if you can do a menopause awareness day around osteoporosis, say, did you know? And it's not about being the source of all knowledge. It's about signposting. It's about making it part and parcel of the language. It is about keeping it in the conversation and constantly drip feeding bits, because that's how you keep something like this going and alive, and you make it just part and parcel of what we do. So that's the
Mm.
challenge now, is to find those awareness days, constantly push, remind people. There is we had somebody the other day was actually wearing the weight vest. So I took a photo of them. She was doing laps up and down the stairs, like, you're way fitter than I could ever be. But I took a photo of her and put it in the weekly news to say, look who's using the weight vest. That little bits every so often keeps it in mind for everybody, rather than you do it and then it's gone.
Yeah, just such, your energy is so fantastic, and I love how what you've shared has been personal around your story and experience and thoughts on menopause, and how we as women can better, deal with and
Mm.
embrace midlife, but then also from a workplace perspective, why it is so important for organizations to take on responsibility, but like we said, to not be 100% responsible, because this is the female herself being responsible, but then the workplace supporting that in the right way. And one thing I just want to get your opinion on, which is a barrier I often have in trying to work with organisations, is that wellbeing is just such a huge puzzle, if you like, with all of these different pieces. You have mentioned things like grief, pregnancy, divorce. We've got neurodivergence, mental health, suicide, menopause. We've got a whole array of topics that fall under that wellbeing umbrella, with often one smallish, for many organisations, pot of money to spend on those. Now, you're sharing there one of the challenges keeping this alive, but that you are very open and excited to look at opportunities to bring menopause in throughout the year, as you said, make it a part of the culture and conversation for your team. And there's all of these different awareness days you can link that to, but how do you balance the different topics of well-being? Or do you feel like menopause encapsulates a lot of those?
I think it's about organisations understanding that if you look after the people will drive the business for you. If you understand the people. So I am a self-confessed, I will say now, data nerd. So it is about understanding your workforce. What have you got? So, what is your population looking like? If you make the language normal and you normalize the fact that you can be off for mental health, you can be off for menopause, you can be off for all the different reasons that we state. If you make that normal and you get people to report on it, you then understand your workforce, and then you understand where the challenges are. So if you haven't got loads of people going off with mental health and it is normalized and everyone's okay with it, then you've not got a problem. If you have got a lot of people going off with menopause, but they're not reporting it and it's anecdotal, then you've got a problem. It's not being spoken about. So therefore, that's your challenge. That's where the money needs to go. But I think when you talk about budgets and money, what we've done at Swim England hasn't cost the earth. Buying extra toiletries of a certain variety, buying a weight vest, it costs 30 quid. I actually did say at the time, if we haven't got the budget, I'll blooming buy it myself. We have a lunchtime exercise policy, which is great. We've got people who go running and walking, etc. And it's just having those little things. Like I say, a lot of little things make a big difference, because if you can get that well-being as a whole thing, you bring your whole self to work. You can feel like rubbish one day. We are trusting you that you know your mental health. You are okay to talk about that with your manager. Your manager is fine with that, and that's normal. Then I know that as an employee, I'm supported, and I will work 20 times harder than somebody who is scared, anxious about saying how they feel or what they're going through. So yeah, I think workplaces that will be successful in the future retain their staff, because turnover is expensive. If you can get that workplace to hold on to that knowledge, that experience, all that stuff that you have, you will be a far better organization, providing happier people who will work a heck of a lot happier, and your productivity will be better, your customer service will be better, you'll get more customers. It is that whole thing. A great workplace starts with great people. Great people start with a great emphasis on the fact that they're important. People-centric workplaces are the ones that will be successful going forward.
I think I'm going to put this into AI and get it to create a business case that I'll practice as a script for when I'm having conversations with organisations, because everything you've said is so true. I know it's a challenging economy and place to be right now for many companies, but you've emphasised wholeheartedly why this does matter. So usually, Tracy, with a guest, I get them to wrap up by giving 3 simple steps to create a habit in the area we've talked about. But with you, I'd just like to get what are 3 things you would suggest to an organisation that they could do to get started with better supporting their team on menopause, based on what you've learned and are still doing at Swim England?
I think one is reach out to people who have started this journey. There is power in numbers. So if you know another organisation that has had this journey to go on, they've started it or they've finished it, reach out and network with those people. Like I say, there are experts. You can find them. If you're not sure, network with organisations that have started the journey and get those experts to help your organisation, because we're not all experts in this area. Get an expert. Small things make massive differences, like I spoke about. It doesn't have to be throw the budget at it. It doesn't have to cost a fortune. Just talking, doing those sessions hasn't cost the earth, but it has made a massive difference. The feedback we had from employees sitting on those sessions, out of an organisation of 250, we had 50 or 60 on each call, and they were different people get popping in and out depending on which bits they wanted to go on. And the feedback was really useful, that was really powerful. It set my mind at ease, and I feel better just for hearing that. That's a small difference. And like I said, all the way through is normalize the language. Make sure that managers are aware of the right things and the wrong things to say. The fact that you can't ask people, are you menopausal? And you can't demonize it. It's not a bad thing. It's just part and parcel of us being humans. And at the end of the day, AI is coming, but we do need humans. Humans make the world go round. So the more you support, encourage, and embrace your humans in your organization, the better you will be for it, and the better people you will attract and you will retain. And that all comes down to how much you're going to spend on turnover. If the average person costs £6,000 to replace at a sort of lower to medium height, if you've got 20, I think it was 30 people leaving a year, that's about 70 odd grand. You're leaking out of your business. So retain your talent, support them.
Brilliant. Yeah, great advice there. Thank you so much. And thanks again, Tracy, for all of your energy and being so open and transparent. And that links to the first step that you said an organisation can take about learning from one another. And there's so much power in that, as we spoke about, for women to learn from one another and be there and support each other. But also as organisations, like, we don't have to rewrite this from the complete beginning. Let's learn. And that's why I appreciate it so much, you allowing me to share your changes and shifts that you're putting into place and what you've learned in my white paper, so that other organisations can learn from that and be inspired, as you said, to know that it doesn't have to mean a great big investment, but it is an ongoing commitment, but it's one that, as you said, can have such huge ripple effects. And productivity, performance, profitability, and reputation's a huge part, isn't it, as well, as you said, to support your team and have your team really value you as an employer as well is key. So,
and your brand,
thanks.
You want to attract the best talent.
Exactly.
If you've got the best well-being, then you'll get the best talent. So.
Yeah, and for the younger generation, that is called out as one of the key things that they're looking for, isn't it? Yeah. They want to know that they are going to be valued and supported.
They want the package.
They're
not going for the salary, they're going for the whole
future
thing.
Of the workplace. Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, thanks again, Tracy. I massively appreciate your time and energy to this.
Lovely.
Yes.
Thank you, Nicola.
You too.
Great. Thank you.
I really hope you've enjoyed this conversation with Tracy and hearing more about how workplaces can create a culture of awareness and support around menopause. If you would like to read my recently published white paper on the real impact of menopause on women's careers, then I'll pop a link into the show notes for you to download that. And please do share it with anyone in your organisation, if you are an employee, who might enjoy and take something from the paper and this podcast episode. Remember that the episode and the podcast each week is here to help you to be more informed and inspired to create healthy habits so that you can thrive. And that includes thriving at work. Work, as I said at the very beginning, is such a huge part of all of our lives. So let's make it a place where you really can be the best version of yourself and achieve that success that you want from your career. So remember to keep listening to the podcast. If you haven't already, I'd love you to hit subscribe. If you're on Apple Podcasts, you can click the 3 dots at the top so that you can follow the podcast and be notified each week when episodes land. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channels so that you also get updates whenever there is new content available for you to watch.